Hello everyone, it's Robin the Delta Crafter, and I want to thank you for joining me for another video on my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be sharing with you a swatching of my different types of pastes that I have. So I have about 6 different pastes here, and what I noticed was I was not really using these pastes in my cards or creations that I was making. And I sat down and I asked myself, well, why am I not using my paste? And what I realized is I'm not using them because I really don't know how they react or how they'll respond in in different ways. So I decided to sit down and swatch them out. And this is being able to sit down and swatch your products out sometimes seems maybe counterproductive because you're not really creating per se, but it's actually very productive because what happens is you get to play around with your products, you get to know their products, you get to know kind of maybe some techniques you need to use or different materials that they work better on, different tools that they work best with. And so this is one of those things that I definitely feel is valuable to my overall crafting, because once I get these swatched out, I will feel that I have a better idea of how to use them. So with that being said, let's take a look at the paste that I have here today. So I actually have 4 Tim Holtz pastes, and then I have 2 pastes from Hero Arts. So I'm going to start with these 2 texture pastes, and these smaller tubs of paste all came in a 3-pack, and I'll be sure to link them below in the description as well as on my coordinating blog post so you can see where they are, where to purchase them, and get more details about them. So I have 2 different texture pastes here. This one is a texture paste that is matte, and this one is a texture paste that has crackle to it. So by swatching these out, I'll get a chance to see how they respond and react to a couple of different scenarios. So those are my 2 texture pastes. I also have 2 grit pastes. And so I have grit paste in translucent, and then I have a larger tub of grit paste in Snowfall. And this is a newer paste. I think this just came out with the holiday or Halloween release from Tim Holtz and Ranger. So I'm interested to see how this one is going to react. And then the last 2 pastes that I have are, let me peel up this pressure seal, and I'll talk about this in just a minute too. I have some Hero paste in white, and then I have Hero paste in glitter. So we're going to swatch all 6 of these out today and kind of get an idea of how they respond and react. So let's do this right here. Let's get some of this. It's my grit over there. Okay. So I've gone ahead and made my swatches ahead of time. I printed out some labels just because I know my handwriting is a little bit big, and then I didn't want to take up so much space on my swatches with my handwriting. So I've gone ahead and created swatches for all 6 pastes that we're going to be swatching out today, as well as I've left some space on the left so that I can punch a hole in these swatches and put them on a loose binder ring so I can have them easily accessible and at the ready whenever I want to kind of look and see how different things are going to react. So what I'm going to do for each paste is I'm going to have 3 different sections on my swatch. I'm going to have just the naked paste, so I'm going to place some right there. I'm going to have the paste over some ink, so I'm going to run my ink cubes across here and have the paste over the ink. And then I'm going to place some of the ink on my glass craft mat, and I'm going to tint the paste so I can see how well it's going to take color, and if I then apply it here on my swatch so I can see what a tinted paste would look like. So this is Nina Classic Crest Solar White 80-pound cardstock that I have made my swatches out of, and they're all consistent. And so I wanted to, for the inks that I'm going to be using, if it's a Hero Arts paste, I'm going to be using a Hero Arts ink, and it's just a little mini cube of Pool Party here. And then if it is a Tim Holtz Distress paste, then I'm going to be using a little mini ink cube of Rustic Wilderness. It really doesn't matter what color you use for your swatch. I just wanted to make sure, like if a Pool Party versus a Rustic Wilderness or a green color, what I did want to do is use the manufacturer of the grit paste and use its also have the manufacturer of the grit paste and the ink be the same. So I'm going to use Hero Arts with Hero Arts. I'm going to use Distress with Distress. So I think the easiest thing to do is to just go ahead and add my little run of my ink swatch across my my swatches here. So I'm just going to take my ink cube, and about a third of the way down, I'm going to run my ink cube across my paper, my swatch here. And that's plenty of ink that's been put down. So in order to get the paste and kind of swatch it across everything, I'm going to use a palette knife. This is a disposable palette knife, just a little plastic one, but I'm going to use it all throughout today for this swatching. Let's go ahead and swatch out our Distress pieces as well. And then we can get kind of the first 2/3 of the swatching completed. All right. So I'm going to set the inks aside, and then I'm going to set these Distress swatches aside, and let's work with the Hero Arts. So to make this go a lot easier, you're going to need a paper towel or any type of towel or cloth that you use when you're crafting. You're going to want to have that handy because you're going to be using this palette knife quite a bit, and so you're going to need to clean it off between swatches. So I learned this trick from Tim Holtz, that when you have paste, in order to prolong their shelf life, even though these pastes are not meant to last forever, they do have liquids in them and they will dry out eventually. But if you want to prolong their shelf life a little bit, take a piece of press and seal, and after you use your paste, kind of take your paste and take that press and seal and press it down to the top of your paste, and that will help keep your paste, extend the shelf life of your paste. All right, so I'm going to peel this back, and the first paste that we're going to go in with is the white. So this is the white Hero Arts paste. All right. I'm going to get some on my palette knife here. That's plenty for everything that I need to do. So I'm going to run some paste across this top third, and that's going to be my naked paste. Then I'm going to run paste across this middle third, and that's going to be my paste on top of ink. So I'm just going to put some down. And I want a kind of a thin layer because I don't want it to take forever to dry. And because I've already inked up my my swatch, I can just continue to bring that paste down over the ink. And see, and apply it there and see what's going to happen. So this is our first application. You can see there we've got a thin layer. I see some spot there where I could add a little bit more, because there wasn't any. You want to make sure you have a good representation so that your swatch, when you go to pull out your swatch and look at things, you have a good example. So you can see that the paper is curling a little bit. And that's okay for me. I'm okay with that. What I'm going to do once all the pastes have dried, it's going to curl up. So I'm going to just place all of the swatches under a book or something heavy and allow them time to kind of flatten out. They'll never be like completely flat, but I can, you know, get them flatter than they will be once everything dries and curls up a little bit. So now that this one is done, I'm going to set that aside. I'm going to pull my press and seal back over. You know what? No, let's go ahead and complete that. The Hero Arts white paste. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do all three at one time. So I'm going to take a little bit of paste. I have it on my palette knife. And I'm going to take a little bit of ink, press it into my mat, my glass craft mat here. And I'm going to take this paste that I have and kind of mix the two together to get my tinted paste. And now that I'm done with that, let me go ahead and press my press and seal back down on top of my paste. And I can go ahead and put my lid back on as well. So we'll press that one take that one to the side, and we're done with that. So I'm going to mix up these two colors, the color and the paste together as best as I can. I probably could have put a little bit more paste down there, but that's okay. We'll scrape all of this paste up as much as we can. And then we'll take our swatch, and then we'll just kind of press that paste onto our swatch, so we can see how this paste will perform if it's tinted. So there's our first completed swatch. We have naked, over ink, and tinted. Then we're going to go ahead and do these same 3 steps for all 6 of the paste. All right, so now it's time to move on to the Hero Arts glitter paste. And this glitter paste has a iridescent glitter in it. I don't know if the camera is catching that, but it has an iridescent glitter in it. So let's take some of this glitter paste. We're going to take it, again, we're going to run naked. Going to apply it naked, and then we're going to bring it down to our inked area as well. So we can see there over this pool party ink, it's very pretty on that blue, on that teal color. Very pretty. Okay, so we got that down. Let's put a little bit of pool party ink on the craft mat. Let's get some glitter paste. We're gonna mix that up and tint the paste. Oh, I can see now this is gonna be pretty. I could definitely see this being used for a water scene, on some card or creation for sure. A snowflake, and pond for ice skating. Oh yeah. For ice skating scene. Yeah, this tinted, it's very pretty. It's making that iridescent glitter really sparkle and shine. All right. So there's the sample, the swatch for the Hero Arts glitter paste. Love that. Well, now I'm gonna set that one aside, press and seal back down, clean up, and get ready for our distress paste. So now we're gonna move on to the 4 different grit paste or distress paste that I have. We're gonna start out with texture paste and Crackle. We'll open this one up. Press that down in there. And let's take the Crackle. We're gonna apply it to the top third, 2/3 rather. Ooh, I got some flakes there. So this Crackle paste is supposed to provide a crackle finish. Although it goes on smooth for the initial application, as it dries, it will crackle. So we're going to get a chance to see what this Crackle paste looks like naked, and then what it also looks like over some ink. Again, I'm applying a thin layer for my card, for my swatch. There we go. And now we're going to put down some Distress ink in Rustic Wilderness onto the mat. And we're going to tint up some of this Crackle texture paste. I don't need so much. There we go. So we just mix that together until we get, you know, a pretty consistent color. Ooh, sorry guys, it's pretty windy here, if you heard that. So one of the things I'm also noticing with when I tint the paste, depending on how much ink you put down, is going to give you a pale, you know, more pale color or a darker, more intense color. So I didn't put down that much ink. And even though this is a darker color, the Rustic Wilderness, you can see that the paste is very, very light. The paste itself is white, so that's going to tone down the ink color. So just keep that in mind if you, when you're using your paste and you decide to tint it. The initial color is going to, initial color of your paste is going to impact the color of your tinted paste, as well as how much ink you lay down, and is going to impact the intensity of your color. All right, I'm interested to see what this looks like once it's had a chance to dry and start the crackling. All right. So there's the Crackle. It hasn't dried enough to start crackling yet, but I'll give it just a little bit of time, and I bet we'll start to see that crackle come to life. All right, let's come in with our fourth paste, which is a texture paste in matte. So this is going to be a very matte, it's not, you know, matte finish. Now this texture paste is a little bit thicker than any of the other pastes that I have used thus far. Get a decent amount of that paste onto my palette knife. I may need some more. This paste is, like I said, it's pretty thick. All right. This has kind of got the consistency of frosting. That's what it reminds me of. So we're going to spread some of this around in the top 2/3. If you were looking for like a, you know how oil paintings have texture to them? Like if you've ever gone to a museum and seen an oil painting, this reminds me of something that could be used if you're looking for that type of finish, or that type of, adding that type of texture to something. All right, so got our initial application for the naked and the over the ink. Now this is pretty different here. It definitely has subdued the color that's up under this paste. That's interesting. Learn again, this is what you got to play with your products, kind of experiment with some things to figure out how they work, and then you can figure out how you may use them in different projects. All right, so now it's time to tint this paste. Let's see how this one takes the tint. All right, Good consistency there in our paste. I'm gonna scrape that up. And now we're going to apply that to this bottom third. Now this is pretty right here. I like this. I can see using this on some trees, on a winter background, a Christmas card, a Christmas tree with this rustic wilderness. I can see even doing using a couple of different distress inks and getting some dimension through the different depths of color. Oh yeah. See how smooth that is? This is pretty. Getting some ideas. All right. So here is, you know what, y'all? I just did that on the wrong card. I'm going to change this to make this say matte and make that one say translucent. Goodness gracious. Oh well, sometimes mess ups happen in crafting and we just have to roll with the punches. This is actually matte, the matte texture paste. So this is what it looks like when you have it naked, when you layer it over ink, and when you tint it. All right, guys, let's go ahead and move on to our next set of paste. All right, y'all, I'm back. Before we get started, I'm going to show you that I did go ahead and fix the labels on the swatches. This is the texture paste in matte. This is the one that we just did that I was suggesting would be pretty on some Christmas trees or some sort of woodland scene. And now we're going to get into grit paste in the translucent. Translucent is going to be the first paste that we use, grit paste that we use. So let's go ahead and jump into translucent. Okay. Slow. All right. So translucent, and get some of that. We're gonna layer, thin layer across here. And the translucent, I'm sorry, the grit paste has texture to it. And I can already tell because if you listen, you can hear it. My ink is moving. You can hear like a gritty kind of sound. So the ink is taking the ink and moving it. So I'm trying to leave the top part colorless, and the top part, I'm sorry, the middle part. So that's something to know and to keep in mind, because I never would have known that this is how this paste would respond and react if I had not gotten in here and made some swatches and started playing around with the paste a little bit. All right. So now that my knife has some ink on it, I'm sorry, some colored ink, tinted paste on it, I don't want to go back into my clear or uncontaminated paste with a contaminated knife. So I'm going to clean it off a little bit, get a little bit of the grit paste on here. Go ahead and close that up. Put some ink down. We kind of already see right there how it's going to respond. And tint this up some more. Well, we know that it'll take ink well because of what it did when we put it over the inked up area. All right. So I put a little bit more ink down and we got a definite difference in color. It's more intense. That's pretty though. Very pretty. All right. So here is our translucent grit paste. The results from the swatching this out. That's pretty. But can you see the texture in it? There's definitely texture. Even when you try to smooth it out, there's texture in it. This is kind of rough and bumpy because I didn't smooth it out well. But this part is more smooth and you can definitely see texture in that. All right, so that's our grit paste and translucent. We have one more to go. Gonna clean up. All right, last paste here. We have our Snowfall, grit paste Snowfall. So I'm just getting a little bit of that. And this, to my understanding, that like this has been used to create like snowy peaks and maybe on top of rooftops or on the tips and tops of trees. I could see that definitely being used, this being used in that way, and a couple other ways as well. So because I know the other grit paste kind of took on that ink, I'm gonna try to work in a different way where I don't get my ink at the top. So you can see this little gritty texture that's being created here. That's what grit paste does. So now we've gotten our top 2/3 done. Let's go ahead and tint this Snowfall grit paste, which is, we can see here, it's kind of white. That's hence the name Snowfall. So let's get a little bit and tint that up. Before I do that, I'm gonna go ahead and close it up. You want to kind of keep your paste closed and limit their exposure to the air because that will dry them out faster. Can you hear that scraping? That's the grit in the paste. All right, so let's scrape that up. All right. We'll apply this across our swatch here, bottom of our swatch. Yeah, this is very gritty. All right. So here's our 6th and final swatch. This is definitely, I can see this being applied over a street or some area that is supposed to be ground or asphalt or something, where this texture would definitely play up the scene that you've created. So if you were wondering how am I cleaning up my things, my glass mat and my palette knife after I finish making my swatches, this is what I'm doing. I am taking some stamp cleaner. This is my Stampin' Up stamp cleaner. This is one of my favorite stamp cleaners. And actually, it is my favorite. It is my favorite. And I'm just spraying a little bit of it onto my glass mat. And then I'll spray a little bit of it onto a paper towel. And I'll run my palette knife through that paper towel. And that's getting me a pretty clean palette knife. Got a little bit of collection there. But it's cleaning up my palette knife pretty nicely. And then I'll take my paper towel and kind of rub over the areas where that paste was and kind of clean that up that way. Now this particular stamp cleaner has a tiny bit of oil in it. So it is creating some streaks on my glass craft mat here. So I'm gonna come in right now with a little bit of my alcohol, my rubbing alcohol that I use for my alcohol inks, and kind of rub that over And that's going to help remove any oil buildup that may have happened, occurred on my mat. So that's kind of how I'm cleaning up my glass mat after all of the swatches that we just made. All right, now that we're clean, let's go ahead and take a look at all 6 of our swatches. All right, most of them have had a little bit of time to dry, so let's take a look at the very first one we created. This is the Hero Paste in white. Not a whole lot of change there, but it's still a little bit, it's pretty dry to the touch, but I can tell from the backside that there's still some moisture in there. Here's our Hero Arts glitter paste. Really like this. This one that has curled up quite a bit is our texture paste in Crackle. You should be able, hopefully you can catch those crackles that are created all along here. I love this texture. But as you can imagine, because this is crackling, this one is the one that's most curled up. So it'll definitely need to go under a book or have something heavy when it's finished. Here's our texture paste in matte. I liked what it did there. Changed the color. Really like that. This is dreamy right here. Grit paste in translucent. You can get that gritty texture right there, and yeah, this is nice. And finally, the one we just finished, grit paste in Snowfall. You can see the difference there. All right. So that concludes our swatch making, everyone. I hope you have enjoyed today's video. If you have, please consider giving it a thumbs up. As always, you can find me on Instagram and Facebook at thedeltacrafter.com. I'm sorry, at The Delta Crafter. You can find me on my website and blog at thedeltacrafter.com. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. I hope you're able to get in your craft rooms and get organized and get into all your products. But most of all, I hope you have a great, enjoy yourself. Bye, everyone.